Welcome to the Universal Dancer podcast with your host Leslie Zare, author of The Alchemy of Dance and the Alchemia Remedies. Coming to you from Cairo, Egypt, the ancient land of Chem. Journey with us to explore sacred dance, the sacred arts, the mystical and the magical. Join a community of like-minded souls seeking to understand the cosmic dance of co-creation through the sacred arts. Come along and expand your mind, ignite your creativity, and explore something new and something old. Welcome to episode 21 of the Universal Dancer podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Zare, and my guest tonight is Banafsheh Sayyad. So let me jump right in and introduce you to my guest. Banafsheh Sayyad is a master Persian sacred dancer, choreographer, transformational teacher, and founder of Dance of Oneness, a deeply profound and highly accessible spiritual teacher of embodiment. Banafsheh performs and teaches internationally, initiating people into the wisdom of their bodies. Her signature style of holy wildness, infused with ancient wisdom, ignites transformation and illumination in all those who watch her and dance with her from around the globe. Banafsheh invites the dancer within to remember, reclaim, and resource the innate healing intelligence streaming through us and spiraling all around us. Her easeful instruction and welcoming spirit empowers students from all stages of life to feel a true sense of belonging in their bodies and passion in their lives by integrating wisdom teachings proven throughout the ages. She is among the few bearers of authentic Persian dance in the world and a pioneer in creating a liberated feminine expression in the Sufi dance genre, previously performed only by men. Her modality, Dance of Oneness, is dance as a spiritual path and science of embodiment. It facilitates a way to embody the flame of love, loving ourself and our body so we can live more fully and love with the whole of our being. Dance of Oneness fuses three streams: the art of dance, rigorous technique and self-expression, healing, and wisdom teachings. With a master's of fine arts in dance and choreography from UCLA and a master's in Chinese medicine, Banafsheh is dedicated to individual and collective healing through conscious dance. Her award-winning work has been presented in North America, Europe, and Australia. Her dance film, In the Fire of Grace with Andrew Harvey, traces Rumi's journey of the soul and dance. Based in Topanga, California, Banafsheh performs and teaches across North America and Europe at well-known centers. The Los Angeles Times said of her, part whirling dervish, part flamenco femme fatale, sensuous and audacious, Banafsheh's dance is a mesmerizing foray into the body as trance mechanism, a DNA strand, supple, fluid, and noble, come to life. And Deepak Chopra says, Banafsheh is one of the greatest sacred dancers I have seen. Let's welcome Banafsheh to the show. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be with you.
Well, I'm very excited to speak to another sacred dancer. So I've been looking forward to this conversation. And well, let's jump right in. So I always like to ask where you were first introduced to dance. When did you first begin dancing?
Well, I danced always. As far back as I can remember, I danced. You know, the earliest memories I have myself are dancing memories. But I was not schooled in dance because even though I come from a lineage of performing artists, uh, because of the stigma dance carries in my culture, which is the Persian culture, I was not schooled in dance. Yet I trained myself. I danced all the time. I created dances and I had this regimen for myself that was quite strict. And it was a daily regimen that I created, knowing that my body needed to become that instrument to express what I could see and feel and dream about.
But I think that's important. I mean, we'll get into this more deeply, but I think dancing for yourself is important. I think that's a whatever the restriction is, but I think that very often we get into performance and we forget about ourselves. So having that practice that is your own, that you're dancing for yourself, I think that that's really an important part of at least of sacred dance. I would hope that all dancers would do that for themselves, but I think especially to have that time alone or that time with you and the divine is important in sacred dance, at least.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And dance was my one of my passions. The other passion was for the divine. So that's over time what I began to really dance for and with. You know, it was like these two passions, these two flames just came together. And the journey of them coming together was both amazing and beautiful and very, very difficult and challenging. But you know, over time, dance became my way to commune with the divine, with the mystery, and become a channel for this mystery to express in the world.
How do you define sacred dance? Or many people call it sacred dance or conscious dance or a spiritual practice. How would you define it and why? What goes into that?
I love that question. Sacred dance, to me, is a way to connect with the mystery, connect with the mystery, that which animates but is not seen. It's a way to journey into the mystery, and it's not it's of course one aspect of it is the self connecting with the mystery, and the other aspect is becoming a channel for it to express in the world, so that it can be shared with others. So it's both a deep connection and a surrendering to that which you're making this deep connection with, and also experiencing the magic and the mystery within yourself, not just connecting with that transcendental divinity, but also awakening the immanent divinity.
And I think it's interesting in dance, let's say in sacred dance, to have that experience of being guided or something moving through you. To me, this is what sacred dance is when the choreographer is the divine and begins to move my body. And I do think I share that same view of those two passions coming together for dance and for spirituality and how they came together in sacred dance. But I think that the divine does express itself through creativity. That can be, maybe that is what creativity is the divine trying to express itself. So I'm not an artist in any other way. I don't paint, I don't write poetry or any of these things, but for me, that's what it is. For me, that's how I would define the sacred or what sacred dance is that feeling of the divine moving through you and moving your body. And it's a very unique experience to be moved, I suppose, because very often our dances come from something external, like choreography, perhaps, that we're watching somebody else, or even we're listening to music and deciding what movements we should do. But for me, that sacred dance really is about letting the divine, creating that opening and allowing that the divine to come through and to move you.
Surrendering, becoming the instrument, and being danced. That's how I see it. But then the question is, what is how do you define how do you define divinity? How do you define divine energy? So we have different ways of connecting with this mystery, with the source of existence. So that's why I feel some people may call what you and I are calling sacred dance conscious movement, So all of these sort of go together, I feel. Yet I remember doing my, when I was doing my MFA in dance, Masters of Fine Arts in Dance at UCLA, the faculty I was working with, who I love very much, were all postmodern choreographers. And when from the very beginning I said, my interest is sacred dance, they would just look at me and go like, what are you talking about? Everything is sacred. And I was like, yes, everything is sacred. Absolutely. But to make a point of that is what I'm interested in. To awaken that in people when they watch me. I'm not interested in people looking at someone saying, oh, you're so beautiful, you move so well. I'm more interested in taking them on a journey where they can just kind of move into the unknown and open themselves to something bigger, something new, something unknown. And so it was a challenge. It was a challenge and a good challenge, because here I was in front of people who viewed dance differently. And I was trying and working on how do I communicate to them what I'm interested in, where they think, where they feel, oh, sacred dance, that's probably something that people do when they don't really have dance technique. So it was like a very interesting conversation and ongoing exploration.
And how did they react in the end? Did they get what you were where you were going with this? Yeah.
They did, actually, they did. I remember one of them saying, oh, I see. So a lot of dance, much like other modern arts, a lot of modern dance, a lot of postmodern dance expresses the angst, expresses um, the tensions of living in the contemporary world, and I absolutely respect and love that, because it's a window, a reflection of what is happening. But for me, what I'm interested in, and the kind of art that I really respond to, really the kind of art that touches my heart, is the one that reminds us of something different. It reminds us of beauty, of truth, of love, and inspires us to activate more and more of that aspect of our being. So the closest that one of them came to understanding my work was, oh, so you're coming from a place of love and you want to expand that instead of coming from a place of tension and angst and concern and worry, and reflecting that. So I was like, sure, yes, why not?
I'll
That
take
sounds
it.
good. I'll take that.
Uh-huh. And I think you brought up a really important point. For me, it's kind of the the crux of the whole thing is surrender. And I think personally, the reason that I came to Egypt, to the Middle East, was to learn that concept of surrender, because having been lived the first part of my life in the United States, that concept, I didn't encounter that concept before. It was always about control, and we were expected to control and be responsible for everything. And so coming to the Middle East and encountering surrender, and I think that that's what allowed me to go into the dance. And the dance modality that I downloaded, the alchemy of dance, that's what it is that we need ways to practice surrender, because in our lives, generally, we are expected to control, and even sometimes to control the outcomes of things. So this was a concept that I stepped into, and it made perfect sense to me, but I didn't know it. It wasn't a part of my life. I see people in Egypt living with that concept of surrendering and surrendering to the divine, and inshallah things are going to happen tomorrow, you know. And I didn't, but it wasn't a part of me. So I needed a way to be able to practice that, and I found that through dance, because I could surrender to the music. listen to the music and allow the music to move through me, or just be receptive, and which is a very feminine quality. And again, I think that that's why it's so foreign to Western cultures, is because it's a feminine quality, and that isn't something that's very prevalent in Western culture. So for me, the alchemy of dance is all about a practice that can teach you how to surrender. And I needed that. And that's why I that was brought to me and I could practice it. And I think that this is, again, I haven't experienced your dance, but I'm guessing, because you have that philosophy of surrender, that it's a very similar thing, and that you can use it as a practice perhaps to learn how to do that, to surrender.
Yes, what I'm very interested in, how I would define what the dance that the modality that I've created, which you gave a little introduction to when you introduced me, Dance of Oneness, um, is about training, developing the chalice, the cup of our body, so that when so that we're strong enough and flexible enough and tender enough and fierce enough, all of those things coming together. And then so that when you're able to surrender, you're surrendering with a chalice that has been developed and ready, so that when this wine of divine grace can pour into you, that your chalice can contain and keep receiving more and more and more, and channeling it. So that's the way I would define it. But surrender is a big part. It's the central part. It's the central part. And like you were describing, the introduction that you gave, that the dance flows in three streams. One is the dance technique, movement technique, embodiment techniques, and then wisdom teachings, drawing from the Sufi tradition, the divine feminine tradition, and the Taoist, as well as modern science, bringing those together. And then the third stream, which is healing. Already to embody these wisdom teachings is healing in itself. But I also bring in dimension the dimension of Chinese medicine, the chakra system, and neuroscience, so that these three, as ways of healing, so that these three streams can come together into um, a, a body of water where you can you where you, when you where you surrender and become more and more of who you're meant to be.
So the dance of oneness, how is that taught, or how is it structured? You mentioned the elements, but
Mhm.
is it a workshop? Does it have levels? How is it set up? How do you teach it?
It is, so yeah, workshop format. Also, workshop format, like one time workshop or an ongoing series. Uh, Basically, all three of these dimensions, these streams, intertwine in every workshop. But depending on the level that I'm teaching, we'll go deeper into one or the other, or the other two. Sometimes the focus, for example, if the focus is sacred anatomy or experiential anatomy, then the emphasis is more on the meridian pathways, and how the wisdom of the body, physiology of the body, and what we can learn from that, in addition to movement, always through movement, always through dance. And then other times the emphasis is more on the wisdom teachings, like dancing the divine feminine or awakening sacred feminine wisdom. Then we go into the tradition of the divine feminine and the different archetypes, different archetypes of the divine feminine or the sacred feminine, and embodying them. And then other times the emphasis is on the Sufi path and on whirling, on the sama. So it depends on where what the workshop theme is, but it's always intertwined. These three streams are always moving together.
And the movements that you do, are they are they mainly taken from Persian dance, or what types of movements are you
So
using?
the dance and movement techniques that inform Dance of Oneness are coming from Persian and other Middle Eastern dances. Um, Flamenco, which is the form that I studied and performed for a long time. Tai Chi and whirling. So these come together in basically in the technique portion.
And then are you doing choreography, or are these, because you said perhaps you're focusing on the sacred feminine and you're using movement. So how are you doing that? Are you using specific choreography to dance the archetypes, or is this more free movement, or what how do you
Mhm.
do that?
A combination. So short choreography or just short sequences, and a lot of freestyle. You know, basically through storytelling about the archetype, I, I set the mood, I set the vibe, and then people through freestyle begin to embody the qualities. But yeah, of course, some little short choreography and sequences.
So who were your biggest influences as you went on your dance journey?
Rumi. Uh, I love how a friend once said that Rumi was one of the greatest choreographers, and he was, because you know, whirling the sama, which is how we refer to whirling in Persian and Arabic, and sema as in Turkish, is um, is an ancient practice, is an ancient dance. But the way that we see it today, the way that the whirling dervishes, the Mevlevi dervishes, the Mevlevi Sufis have, you know, brought it down through time, was developed by Rumi, by Jalaluddin Rumi. The way that, you know, the right hand is up and the left hand is down, and that whole approach to it. So he was a great choreographer. Yeah, a huge influence. He was a huge influence on me, and I'm influenced by everything, Leslie. You know, nature, the way the ocean moves, the way the trees move in the wind, the way people's movement, daily life movement, observing people moving. So all forms of movement influence me. I feel they inspire me a lot. But the main dancers that I was moved by, choreographers that was moved by, were flamenco dancers, flamenco choreographers.
I
That
had
was the dance that
the
really
same feeling,
captured.
yeah. I didn't dance flamenco, but it was something that I was exposed to at a young age, and it really influenced me a lot, because I think the music and all is came from the Moors. So I think that, it is very similar to me. It's I don't know. I can relate it very much to Middle Eastern music and belly dance and all those things. There seems to be some thread that goes through, I feel. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the you know flamenco really is coming from India, from Rajasthan especially,
Yeah.
and it's from the gypsies that travel the Silk Road, and they move through all of the cultures, taking from all of them all the way into the Middle East and Eastern Europe, and then Africa, Northern Africa, and then landing in Spain. So it is a hybrid form, and it's taken from all of these cultures. And the reason, for example, that it appealed to me so much was that I discovered it when my family and I had to leave Iran because of the revolution, and I was in the U.S. and I was absolutely devastated. I didn't want to be in the U.S. I wanted to stay in my country with my family, with my relatives, with my friends. I didn't want to go anywhere. So this form that is the form of gypsies, people who had to leave and be on the move and land in a strange place with strangers and learn how to be resilient, learn how to be um, self-sufficient and overcome their fears and all kinds of things really appealed to me. I felt that, oh, this is the language of my heart. This is how I feel. And I had so much anger and sadness and grief and sorrow. And this was a form that, just like you're talking about alchemy, shows you how to alchemize these feelings, feel them deeply, express them, and then through that triumph and transmute them, transform them into something different, into joy, into aliveness, passion. So it's that, I think that's why so many people relate to it. It's just so fiery and strong. And that was the other thing. Um, I hadn't seen a form of dance that showed me that strong woman who is sensual and charismatic and magnetic, but she contains her power within herself. She doesn't have to please anybody. She's not interested in, do people think I'm pretty? Do I feel cute? Do they think I'm this and that? It's it it's beyond that. It's like your strength is not about how others see you. So it was like a great modeling for me of the strong woman I wanted to step into being.
And there's something very powerful about the stillness of it. You know, the control, like the not moving the body that much, that it's mainly in the I mean, there is movement in the upper body, but that it's in the legs, and this pounding of the feet is a great way to discharge energy, especially anger. So I'm sure that you know, by stomping on the earth, that's a great way to release anger or trauma or all these things. So I think I didn't do flamenco, but I did tap dancing, and I found it very cathartic to to really pound my feet on the floor. There's just something about that that really does release that energy.
Yeah. Cathartic is the word, exactly. Yeah.
Does Persian dance have whirling in it, or is that something that you adopted from more from the Turkish side, or is that part of Persian dance as well? I'm not
Persian
that
dance,
familiar with Persian dance, so I'm
sure. Persian dance has a lot of turns in it. It's not exactly whirling. Um, it's a form that, the form that I like to practice, and I say that because it's a very widely interpreted form, because originally it's a solo improvised dance. And so it's really up to the choreographer and the dancer what their focus is. And a lot of times throughout the history, Persian history, the dancers were focused on light-hearted themes or bazaar culture, stuff like that. And what I'm very interested in is more of the poetry and the mysticism and the mythology and the shapes, the architectural shapes, the shapes that we see in the carpets and in the designs. So, and very much the wine bearer and the cup bearer that we call this sari, or the muse. So the dancer is like the muse. So she's both very sensual and fluid in her movements, very ethereal, very celestial. So it's a blending of these two kinds of being. And so a lot of turns, a lot of moving in circles is part of that. But just to clarify, whirling is not just Turkish. Whirling is quite ancient, like I said earlier. And the Sufis picked it, the Sufis before Rumi also turned. And this is what Shams, Rumi's beloved teacher and companion, brought him. So he taught him how to whirl and said, this is all you need to let all that you know in your head drop down into your heart and into your body so that you can live what you know. This is the way. This is the most complete practice for that surrendering and becoming the channel of the divine. So, whirling, well, Rumi was Persian, Shams was Persian, but they met in Turkey. Rumi, his family migrated to Turkey when he was 12, and he lived most of his life in Turkey. So, yeah, just to clarify, just to
Hmm.
clarify.
No, it's very interesting. Yeah, I'm not up on my history, so I appreciate your letting us understand better what that whole lineage is. Yeah. So let's talk about the sacred feminine. Is this to you? I think that this is a very important subject because obviously we all define things in our own ways, and they mean different things to different people. But unfortunately, I think a lot of times people just take words or phrases or statements and assume that everybody understands what that is, or assume that everybody agrees on what the definition is, and I think it is very different to different people. So what is the sacred feminine to you? How would you describe her?
Yes. So I feel, after thousands of years of um, not having a manifest connection with the goddess. And this is the reason you're saying everyone says one thing, and who is she exactly? Is This is the reason. Humanity prior to 5,000 years ago had a manifest connection with the goddess. But we've lost that for thousands of years, but she's re-emerging. She's re-emerging in our psyches, and this reemergence is activating a new era in our evolution, and it is opening us to a new ethic of responsibility toward our planet home, and also a new vision of the sacredness of all life and the unity of all life. So she's been traditionally identified as birth, love, beauty, justice, wisdom, compassion, harmony. But she's also death. She's also that irresistible power that destroys old forms and brings new ones into being. And she's nature, and she's our nature, and she's calling to us in this time to protect life, to trust life, and to work with her in all that we do, and to see her all around us, and to hear her, to feel how we're not separate from her. And most importantly, what I love to communicate to people is to be her, to be her, to be the qualities that, whatever, however way we define her, that quality, those attributes are exactly the attributes that we need to have more of in ourselves, develop more of, so that we can bring that into the world more and more, bring that harmony and balance into a world out of balance.
And I think you made an important point about the duality. In my understanding of the sacred feminine, I call her the serpent goddess, where she has these two serpents that intertwine, and they are the dark and the light, and the dark sister and the goddess, or however you want to define them. And I think, to me, that's part of the misunderstanding, is that very often people define only one of those. When they talk about the sacred feminine, they're talking about maybe something like the Mary Magdalene energy, or the great goddess or Mother Earth. But again, there is that dark side to it. And we need to embrace that. Or other people look at only the dark side and see the sacred feminine as being this sort of devourer, and I think that's the importance, is to integrate those two, because the feminine is about both, and it's not either or, which is very masculine, that separation. And I hope that it is coming back into our consciousness, because I think it has been lost, and it's been lost by women, as well as societies and men. But I think women have lost it, and I think both of us are on that path to try to reawaken that in women. I think dance is a wonderful way to do that, because of, again, going back to what you said before about surrender and becoming the vessel, all of these things can give you that experience of embodiment, of becoming that the chalice, as you said, that sacred space within ourselves to experience the internal world as opposed to the external world. So
Mhm.
I think that however we can find to bring those things back into our consciousness, and I think dance is a wonderful way to do that, because
Mhm.
it does, and it makes you feel your body. And again, the Earth Mother is Earth. She's our physicality as well.
Yes, absolutely. The body, the physicality, matter, which comes from the word mother, matter, is the domain of the sacred feminine, and re-sanctifying the body, re-sanctifying it, not just seeing and approaching the body as an it, or inferior to the mind, inferior to the soul. Really bringing all of that into a unity, bringing the mind, body, heart, soul into a unity. And I'm sure there are, zillions of amazing practices to do that. But you and I know, and I think people listening to us know, that dance is one of the most accessible ways to do that. It just happens. You don't even have to do anything really. You just kind of let yourself go, surrender to the music, like you said, and before you know it, you're moving into this in this oneness. In dance, where there is no duality. I mean, there's a lot of opposition that comes together and blends, right? We can't have dance without oppositions coming together, right, left, up, down, front, back, or just some examples of that. We ground to, open and fly up, so to speak. We experience the groundedness in order to develop lightness. All of these oppositions coming together, coming together, and before we know it, none of them matter really. You're just in this flow, and more connected, and more open to let this flow move through you, this flow that is moving through everything.
I think we're living at a very exciting time, because this is, I think dance is also being redefined. And as you were saying, when you did your degree, that they didn't quite understand what you were talking about, because I think dance had been seen as something more masculine, in that it was choreographed, and this more feminine way of just allowing the movement to move through you. I think that is a newer concept. It's not a newer concept, it's a very old concept, but I mean, it's re-emerging and coming out in many different ways. But I do think that that is one way that we can really tap into that, the feminine, is by allowing that freedom of movement, by being moved from the internal to the external.
Yes, truly, truly. And yeah, it is more ancient. That's more of the ancient roots of dance, really. Dance as a form of worship, dance
Hmm.
as a form of reverence, and ritual. where you're honoring the goddess, you're celebrating the goddess, and sort of getting out of your own way and letting yourself be danced. And yes, I think that's definitely more and more of what we see, and the emphasis on I just wanted to say that I'm for myself, I'm very interested in the intersection between total surrender and directed movement. I'm very interested in that. So how I define my own dance is 100% surrendered and 100% grounded and here. So, and you need that, for example, when you're whirling, you need that in, in order to be able to stop without getting dizzy, without falling over. So it's this marriage of the two that I'm interested in. Letting yourself be danced and you're in the service of the greater, but your instrument is trained and it's ready. Your instrument is ready and grounded and centered.
And I think I think that that is the new understanding, maybe, that we can integrate those opposites. We can do both of those things at the same time, that we don't have to choose one or the other, but we can actually integrate them. And it's a very um, interesting feeling, that feeling of no mind, like to be completely present and to be completely dissolved at the same time. And I think, to me, that is kind of what I'm striving for, in the sense that that is the moment that I feel that I've connected, is when I can do those two polar opposite things at the same time, and and be in that, and there's no contradiction, or there's no it's not oscillating, but it's just in being present in both those things at the same time.
Empty and full. So it's like it's an integration of the feminine and the masculine. It's an integration of the yin yang. It's both. You know, and the way to both is giving yourself fully to each one. That's how I've experienced it. Giving 100% of yourself to the surrendering, and giving 100% of yourself to the grounding, to the centering, to being present. And then these two coming together, dancing in you. It's so exciting. That's my favorite.
Yes. Tell us about your film.
In the Fire of Grace. Yes. So in the Fire of Grace is a journey through. It's a journey of spiritual seeking. It's a journey of coming to realize yourself, uh, where the body and soul come into a oneness. It's following the 5 stages of the path as one can interpret from Sufi teachings. So starting with the call and ending with living as a lover. So going through the stages, and it's through dance and poetry. I recite the poetry of Rumi in Farsi, in Persian, and Andrew Harvey, who is a scholar and a mystic. He recites in English, and in between the dances, we have conversations. We have a
Mhm.
very short conversations that kind of transition us into the next dance.
So where can we see that film, if we want to see it?
Uh, it's on Amazon
Okay.
Prime and
Uh-huh.
also Vimeo. So on my
Okay.
website, to look for the link to In the Fire of Grace dance film.
Beautiful. Yes, I will look for that. Yeah. So, just to kind of round things up, what do you feel? How do you feel that dance can contribute to society, or where we're going in our future? How do you think dance especially sacred dance, is important for this?
Well, it's the bringing together of everything we've been talking about. Sacred dance brings us into a state of reverence. It reminds us of the sacredness of life. We learn and remember how everything is interconnected, and how each and every one of us, with everything we do, every word we utter, every thought, every feeling, every movement, influence the whole, influence the collective, influence the biology and the collective state of everything. So it's coming in touch with how we are individuals yet interconnected. And plus the benefits of dance. Dance is one of the greatest ways, especially sacred dance, to come into to embody ourselves, to develop this integration between our body, heart, and mind and soul. These days we hear a lot about brain, mind, and heart coherence, head and heart coherence. But there's also the body part that needs to come into this equation. Body, heart, head coherence is what will bring us into wholeness, into remembering that we're divine beings. We're divine beings on this planet. And our task is to take care of and protect our precious planet and evolve together. I feel sacred dance is an amazing reminder of that. And it also develops in us the ability to be resilient, to be adaptable, to be flexible, to be more embodied. Because many of us are live in our heads mostly. So through dance, we learn to come more into our bodies, so that we're not just in our heads, where our capacity is so much less than when we are embodied. And we're so much more prone to stress and worry and fear and all of those things. When we learn to be more embodied and ground ourselves and connect with the earth, we have more capacity to respond to situations instead of react. And dance is this invitation, really, the invitation to come into wholeness, come into an interconnectedness with others. Because dance, we dance by ourselves, but mostly dance is something we do together. It's bringing ourselves into rhythm with others and into alignment with others, which is where we're going, which is what can really save us from the pathway of destruction, this coming together and feeling our unity, which is what dance initiates us into so beautifully.
And to remind us that we're part of a community, that we are part of a whole, and that we can
Yeah,
dance together.
Earth community, galactic community, cosmic community, right? It gets more bigger and bigger and bigger.
And joy. I think that one thing about dance is also the joy that it brings, that it's fun, we get very serious and in our heads about things, and I think that it can remind us that we can just have fun too, and move.
Yes, that's key. Joy. In a few seconds, in just a matter of
Yeah,
seconds, you're just open to
yeah,
joy, and you're
yeah.
able to then rejuvenate and refresh yourself, and then you have a whole new attitude. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. And the other thing that for me is very amazing about dance is that we really get to sense, especially sacred dance, we really get to feel that it's your soul moving, the subtle movement of the soul, so that body and soul become one. It's no longer a duality, no longer this opposition and soul superior to body or whatever. It's they operate. They vibrate as one.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. And there are probably not that many occasions to have that experience. I mean, unless you're having a very potent, unique experience. But again, as something that we do, or I suppose that many religions, maybe that's what their goal is. But for me, yes, I think that would be a time when I would experience my soul. I hadn't thought about that. That's
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. So tell us about up and coming events that you have. What's on the horizon for you?
I have a few things coming up actually. I'll be doing a free event called Embody, the Power of the Feminine through sacred Sufi dance. And this is going to be a talk as well as a guided practice, a short practice to come in touch with, to give you a taste of the dance of oneness and to awaken the feminine energies that we need today so much to usher in this new vision of the sacredness and unity of life. This is going to be on July 12th, Tuesday, July 12th, and it's at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And then there will be a replay on July 16th. And in this talk, I will be talking about in this free event, I will be talking about the new course that I'm doing, which is a 12-week course starting on July 26th called Liberate Your Body with Sufi Dance. And this is an initiation into the wisdom of the body and the healing power of the sacred feminine. A convergence of coming home to the body, finding ease in your own skin, and learning about the physiology of some of the organs as well as the meridians or pathways of energy in the body, self healing through the use of acupressure and movement, and dancing to embody the different sacred feminine archetypes as they correspond to the chakras, and also discovering the hidden aspects of the Sufi path as the sacred feminine path of embodied love. After that, well, that's going to be from July to October. And in the middle of that, August 13th to 19th, is going to be a retreat, an immersion that I'm doing after 2 years of not doing any, not holding any in person
Yes.
events. I'm so excited to be back in person with people. This is called Venus Rising, Regenerating Love, from August 13th to 19th in Chartres, France. And our sessions are taking place in the Chartres Cathedral and as well as a location that's next to it.
Wow.
Chartres is a powerful vortex and site for transformation.
Yes.
We will be spending a lot of time in the cathedral itself with rituals, walking the labyrinth, singing and dancing in the times when the cathedral is not open. So we're very blessed to be able to go in the mornings before it opens and in the evenings after it closes to do our rituals and to just bask in the silence of this amazing, amazing temple. Um, and this I'm joining other faculty for this. Andrew Harvey and Eve Ensler, whose name now is V,
Uh-huh.
and others, Ruth Cunningham, Jim Garrison, Apila Colorado, others. So it's a coming together of different teachers and artists.
Wow.
And people come from all over the world to this event normally when we've had it before the pandemic. So it will be a reunion as well as welcoming new people. It's really about through dance, through singing, through discourse, and being together to really bring ourselves into a place of regenerating love so we can heal ourselves and our world. And this location has been for eons a place that people have come for seeking healing, seeking transformation. So if we can't do it in this sacred site, I don't know where we can do it.
It's a
Um,
good place to begin.
it's a great place to begin. And finally, I have every last Sunday of the month, I have this workshop series called Living in Harmony. So the next one will be on Sunday, July 31st. And each time, and each time we will be, each time in this Living in Harmony workshops, we embody one of the elements that we're in, whether it's water, earth, fire, or air. And we will be in Leo season, so we will be dancing to embody the fire element and the energy of the lion.
Yep. We have the Lion's Gate then too. Yeah.
Lionsgate,
Beautiful.
August.
Yeah. Okay. So if people want more information, they can go to your website.
Yes, that's danceofoneness.org, DanceOfOneness.org.
And also, if people want to connect with you on Facebook,
That's at Banafsheh Sayyad, my name, just without a break,
and you're on Instagram.
at Banafsheh Dance. Don't forget there's an H at the end of Banafsheh. So BANAFSHEHDANCE.
And then you also have a YouTube channel.
Yes, Dance Mystical, one word, Dance Mystical.
So there are many ways to connect. And you said that the movie, there's a link to that on your website.
Yes, and
Oh,
we can add that link
mhm.
in as well.
Yes, and I have the links in the show notes to all her social media, to her website, and also to this up and coming event. So check the show notes for links.
And
All
for the
right.
film, you can also look up In the Fire of Grace on Amazon Prime or Vimeo.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, and it's been lovely to chat with you, talk about
Thank
my
you.
favorite subjects. So thank you
Uh,
for that.
Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about my favorite subject, too. It's been a joy talking with you. It's been a delight.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right. So I'm just going to quickly tell you about what's coming up next month. I have Sophia Tom. She's the creator and CEO of Temple Body Arts, and that will be released on the 14th of August. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And please check out the other episodes. If this is sacred dance is a topic that interests you, then you've come to the right place. So check those out. And I hope that you will continue to listen or watch the episodes in the future. All right. Thank you for being here. Bye bye.